Welcome to episode 32, season 2 of the Bulls REKAP Podcast. I'm Joe Cowley of the Chicago Sun-Times. You can read me in the Sun-Times. You can follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at JCowleyHoops. We got a new man in charge. EVP, Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations, Bryson Graham. Yes, it is not Matt Lloyd. The name that I was harping on and many were harping on for weeks since this process started. So let's talk about it, and let's bring in the crime dog to do just that. My guy, Ryan. Crime dog. Look at that fist pump. Love it. We got a new guy. Look.
I hope. Well, we got a new guy.
We got a new guy. Is he the guy? We'll find out. Impressive press conference. But as I've just finished writing, for my newspaper article for tomorrow, we're Bulls fans. As Bulls fans, as Bulls media, we are past the point of winning press conferences, of new guys saying the right things. Look, he played all the right notes. And here's what I like the most. I thought this was the best. The opening part of the press conference, Michael Reinsdorf, who I know people see the last name and they instantly hate anything he says. I don't believe that should be the case. I think Michael should actually be out there more. I've talked to him about that. He doesn't have to be like Cuban and shaking hands and kissing babies at every game, walking right down the court and saying hi to everybody. But it'd be nice if he comes out of the suite or he makes himself a little more seen by us, talks to us more than just off the record stuff, because I think he does get it. And I thought the greatest part of the entire press conference was him opening it up by saying, first of all, I want to start with our fans. He said, I need to say that I'm sorry because the results obviously haven't been there. Excuse me. It's not something I'm proud of, and it's something I want to get right. Ultimately, it flows up to me, and I take responsibility. I do feel that, he was saying today, meaning Wednesday, is a step in the right direction, and it's an important step. I mean, if you're not throwing yourself on that cross to open up a press conference and saying, look, I understand how you feel about me or you feel about my father, but I am here to say I am the face of this. I am falling on the sword, and this has all been on me, and I want to get it right. There aren't a lot of owners. There aren't a lot of billionaires that would do that publicly. So I applaud him for that. Now, that doesn't mean he all of a sudden gets some kind of free pass because he threw himself at the mercy of the crowd. Now he has to make sure he gets it right, and we all have to make sure that Bryson Graham is the right guy. Great words, but it's action time.
Yeah, and I'll say this, though. That's twice in a month that we've heard from Michael Reinsdorf, which is 2 more times than we've heard from any ownership group or anyone in ownership in how long? Right. Decades? Years. Like, yeah. Most of the time it's a statement, and here's a guy who's trying to change the narrative. And quite frankly, you talked about winning the press conference. That's what Chicago across the board. Take the Bulls out of it, throw every team in it. Every team's won press conferences in this town over the last 25 years. There's not a fan in this town that wants to hear about, oh, great press. Oh, here we go. I'm looking at all the people who were there with you today, all different sorts of the Twitter timelines here. John Greenberg, as you know, could be snarky. This is the first in-person press conference in a very long time where you actually think this thing could work out. And I've heard you kind of been saying that here for weeks. Like, if allowed, the Bulls can get this right. And going back to some of the things you were talking about and how this came about with Bryson Graham, because it was a surprise name to all of us. It was a surprise name. I pretty much was ready for the Matt Lloyd press conference based on all the stuff you've been working on. But it sounds
the league was ready for the Matt Lloyd press conference. This was as soon as they named it, my phone just ding, 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 and calls, and everyone was like, wow, where did that come from? How did that happen? Why did it happen? And I'm like, and the first thing was, well, what did Matt Lloyd do wrong? And what did he say wrong? And then I actually researched it and dove into it. Lindsay, Lloyd, Dave Lewin, and Bryson were all fantastic. We're all of them have great reputations. Lloyd and Lindsay are a little more similar, where they're kind of like considered like plug and play guys, where they'll jump right into it, and their ideas are a little more old school. And Dave Lewin, from what I heard, it was like watching some NASA guy showing you outer space shit from 40 years down the road. That it was impressive, but like a little nerve-wracking. Like, this guy's kind of a mad scientist. Now they love him, and I know for a fact, and have reported this, they want to get him in the building in some capacity, if not him, because he does want a number one job, someone like him. So they were impressed by it. All four of the candidates were impressive. It came down to what Michael Reinsdorf felt like was the fit they needed right now, and what lined up to his mentality, and what Arturas didn't do. Arturas said he was going to play the slow game so this thing could be sustained. He didn't. By year two, he hurried up and tried to shortcut it, and then never got off of that group with the Vooch and DeMar and those guys. And it was a good first swing, but he never got off of it. Arturas thought he was the smartest guy in the room and didn't care about other people's opinions. His circle was very small. It didn't matter that he did build out the front office. It was, in modern day NBA, it was still a small front office, and it was one that, well, there was not a lot of collaboration. It was the Arturas show. Anyone that I've reported all this. If you disagree with him, poor Weinman got fired after he was told he couldn't do an interview with Golden State to go there. So no, you don't have permission, and then you fire him, weeks or months later, whatever it was. So there was just a lot of that stuff. So Michael Reinsdorf wanted, and it's not to say that Lindsay, Lloyd, and Lewin wouldn't have brought this either. It's just, what Bryson said in the presentation and what Bryson Graham brought is exactly what Michael Reinsdorf needed. And here's the quote I love. Here's another quote I love. And this has to be read in full because I thought it was so good. He was asked about just kind of, and to me, we've talked about this. When I've gone to Rio de Janeiro with the Bulls and Paris a couple of years ago, when Casey and I were in Paris, I don't think people in Chicago, unless they travel worldwide, they know the Bulls are a big deal and the history of the Bulls is a big deal. And they probably in the city, and they probably have a feeling that nationwide and worldwide there is you don't know until you go in that city with the team about to play there just how big the Bulls brand is worldwide. And so that's always been my frustration, that it's run like a mom and pop store and it's a worldwide brand. It's Apple, it's Amazon, and yet it's run like, Jerry's Hardware on the corner. And his quote was, if you played basketball in the 1990s, 85%, 90% of the kids, I don't care where you grew up. I grew up in San Antonio. Yeah, I got some love for the Spurs. I ain't going to lie. But it did not supplant what the Bulls meant to me. When I think about it, and I think about the greatness that's in this building and what's in these rafters, the championships that have been won here, it's amazing. It impacted my life more than I thought I knew, because I was always chasing what this organization represented. You see MJ, and obviously I wanted to be just like him, like everybody did, right? But I wanted that, and it carried over in other aspects of my life. So like my work ethic, my determination, my grit, I'm watching the Bulls and what they displayed, and I'm like, that's what I want. I mean, if that's not a dude that freaking gets the makeup of what this organization should be, not is, should be, I mean, that's a quote that makes men realize they have nipples. You know what I mean? It's just, I mean, I don't usually get caught up in what guys say in a press conference, but it's like, this freaking dude, for 39 years old, this dude gets it.
See, like that could be a winning the press conference moment. It could also be winning the moment at the same time. Here's why I like this hire. This is why, and you could hold the receipts, because this thing's going to be available 5 years from now on a podcast or here on YouTube. I like the hire because it wasn't the guy everyone else said it was going to be. And the Bulls' way of doing things, and the Whites, the Reinsdorf way, so to speak, it's been very predictable. It's been as predictable as anything. It's the sun rising in the morning. And everyone had pegged Matt Lloyd because of the connection to the Bulls. And not to say, as you mentioned, He's got the resume. He was very impressive.
Right.
Etc. But I go back. I'm going to keep bringing Michael back into this. And there was another thing that Reinsdorf said during the press conference, because it really, this has the opportunity to be Rocky Wirtz. He has the opportunity to be different than the old man and change everything right away. This was a comment that stood out to me and still does, because we know about the luxury tax and the Chicago Bulls and the White Sox as well. If we're competing for championships, we expect that we'll probably be in the luxury tax, and I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah.
When I hear that from an owner, and I hear that from the new guy that he brought, the EVP, and you know, no matter what you can't have is the guy who just walked out of the building. The guy you said that we can't do this anymore. What I've learned is that both Michael Reinsdorf and Bryson Graham are cool with smarter people being around them and being with them. Even when Michael interrupted Bryson talking about the coaching search, Bryson saying, he mentioned ownership, and he said, no. I hired you. You're hiring the coach. Yeah. That to me, Joe, tells me symmetry from here to top down. For if you're listening to this, top down. I don't feel like it's been that way for a long time at West Madison.
Yeah, and there's criticism of people that were saying, well, why do you keep saying the Reinsdorfs are predictable because Arturas was an outside hire? Okay, well, first of all, that was during COVID and a unique situation in its own. And when you and I are talking, to your point, when you and I were talking about the Reinsdorfs, we include the White Sox. I covered that for 12 years. And that is as predictable as it comes. I mean, as far as GMs, I mean, you go right down the line, that's been as predictable as it comes. So we're grouping it all together. And to me, your point about Wirtz is great, because Michael in the last 2 months has done something that his dad has never done. First of all, after 6 years to fire a front office and to clean it out before the season ends, not been done by a Reinsdorf. It's always been benefit of the doubt to the front office. Coach goes first. Players, then coach, then front office. That's always been the pecking order. So for him to say, no, it's going to be the front office, and we're going to give Billy Donovan the chance to stay around, and obviously Billy did not, I think speaks that this is a different mentality for Michael Reinsdorf. He is still learning on the job. He's still trying to figure this out, but he's definitely different from his dad. The relationship Michael and I have, I know Jerry does not love it, but Michael has pointed out to me several times, I am not my father. Because I thought when I first moved into the Bulls beat, I didn't talk to Michael for years, and I figured the sins of the father are going to continue to be the sins of the son. The dad hated me, condemned me twice in statements. The son's also going to hate me. And I will say, Michael and I have a very workable relationship, and that was mostly on his effort to reach out to me so that I understood that just because my dad can't stand you, which he did admit, doesn't mean that you and I have to have that same relationship. To me, that says a lot. There aren't a lot of people, not that he's defying his father, but he's his own man. And to me, that says a lot as far as his mentality. So then you take it a step further. What he's done the last couple months tells me that this can work, that maybe good things are happening. Now, with all that said, both of them pointed out, we can sit up here and say all the right things, but we need talent.
Yep.
And this guy has a reputation of no shortcuts, and right up there, 1A and 1B is a great Italian talent evaluator. And so that will be put on display. You have 4 picks in this draft. You have 3 in the first 38. You have 2 in the top 15. What that first one becomes, we shall see. I mean, that's going to be the excitement on Sunday. Can they jump into the top 4? If they can jump into the top 4, even if they don't, but I can say if they could jump into the top 4 the way this draft feels like it sets up, and again, everything changes once you get a guy in the building, but the way it sets up, all bets are off. This Bulls thing now, there's a new buzz in the city if they could jump in the top 4, because you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting. I
totally agree. And do you think, like, I've watched the playoffs, and I'm watching that Pistons Magic series, and I'm watching it shaking my head going, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me! Like, and this is not discrediting what the Pistons have done. It's kind of pushing my argument forward to what I'm about to say here about the Bulls. Do you think part of this is Michael going like, this can be fixed, and it doesn't have to be 5 or 6 or 7 years? It probably needed to happen 2 years ago, as we know, to prepare for these last 2 drafts. Right. But I'm watching the Pistons, the Magic, the Cavs, the Sixers. There's no sexiness there. The East is wide open and will be kind of going forward, to be honest with you. I mean, the Pacers have positioned themselves, but there's no
guarantee, right? There's no OKC.
There's no OKC. There's no Wemby ready to take over.
Right.
And if you get this right, this could be, like you talk about the buzz. It's a Bears town. It's a Bulls town. Like this team, like it's a sleeping giant. The Bulls have, because of the Jordan era, the 90s that Bryson was talking about, dude, the building's been full for all these years. That's part of the problem, is that the building's been full and the merch has been sold and the suites are packed. And if that can happen again, but for the right reasons, this thing could be turned around in a shorter time frame because of the Eastern Conference. Do you think that Michael sees that a little bit when he watches the playoffs?
Well, I think two things. I think he sees what you pointed out, which is a great point. I also think he sees, wow, because I was talking to him the other day, and one of the things, VJ Edgecombe, Murray Boyles. I'm just trying to think of some of the rookies that we all know what Con Knipple did and how I felt about Con Knipple. I'm just thinking about guys Dylan Harper. Just think about some of the impact rookies. And he even said, why didn't we go and try to get these guys? And again, he relied on his guy in charge to say when to dip into a draft class and tank and when not to. And obviously the problem is now with these new tanking rules, though you had your window, it's gone, and it's never going to come back. Even if the 27 and 28 classes aren't very good, excuse me, which they're not, your number one job as a front office is to evaluate talent and when to dip into that talent in the 25 and 26 draft class. I'm glad that the Portland thing worked out and the Bulls will have, two bites at the apple, but it could have been so much better and could have so much quicker. And you just think about, again, to your point, look at the runway the New York Knicks have right now. Embiid, we're taping this on the morning of or afternoon of Game 2. Embiid's already out. I mean, it could not be. Cleveland is being undercoached. Kenny Atkinson's a used car salesman. I've been saying this for years. The Cavs fans are finally starting to understand that. Detroit gave the Knicks problems in the regular season, but again,
are they ready to take that?
Are they ready to take that step? I mean, so yes, what I will say is this: what Bryson Graham said is very smart. He said, "I have cap space. There's 3 ways I can approach it. I can sign a player, I can throw it at a restricted player, or I could be smart and take that money, take on a bad contract, and take on draft assets with it." And he wants to build this thing the right way. And basically, he is not sold on any of the talent that's here. It's not a smack at Modest. It's not a smack at Josh Giddey. But he's like,
you shouldn't.
Okay,
you shouldn't.
Right.
That's why organizations make these changes.
Yes. And he was asked about untouchable players, and he said, "Yeah, I'm not going to answer that because that's not a fair question." He goes, "But when you really look at it, there's only like a handful of untouchable guys, and even those guys can be got. Luka Doncic got. And so, you know what I mean? Wemby's probably untouchable. I'm going to go ahead and go on that limb and say Wemby's probably untouchable. Cooper Flagg, probably untouchable. Besides that, I think that's really about it. Everyone else is touchable. So, and he did talk about the kind of players he likes. He likes length, physicality, two-way players. Josh Giddey had to be home in Australia going, "That ain't me, damn it." I mean, I have the length.
God knows P-Will ain't looking in the mirror saying, "Me."
Yeah. So that was interesting because that is not really anybody that's on this roster that was kind of moving more towards just offensive mindedness. And so I see what you're saying, but it also feels like to me this guy is in the long game and wants to do this right. And this might be an ugly summer where, yeah, we got these young draft assets, and we'll have Noah Sengay back from his redshirt year, and but I'm going to use the money to bring in some real dog guys that have really bad contracts, and I'm going to get more first-round picks because I want to have multiple bites at the apple for now a draft that I can no longer tank and have very little control over. Why not have as many dice in there that you're throwing at the wall? So I can see it going both ways. And again, a lot of it is what happens Sunday. If they hit number 1 or 2 and they get DeBonsa, and then at 15 they grab Mara, then all of a sudden you're like, well, shit, let's throw it at a restricted free agent and see if we could get Atari Eason in here now. Or let's throw it at, forget free agency. Let's throw it at a restricted free agent, or maybe we'll dip one more year, let these guys grow up and go through their growing pains, bring in a bad vet contract, and then I'm getting a first-round pick with it. So it's all there for him, and he seems like a smart guy, and he seems like he's got a plan. And he was in Atlanta for 1 year and quickly changed the culture by getting rid of Trae Young. So he isn't married to guys. We saw that. Trae Young was beloved down in Atlanta. I don't know why. I always consider him one of the most overrated guys, but beloved. And he instantly went in there and said, Trae, you got to go. You're just not my type of player.
Chicago is a city that loves long-term relationships, organization. Yeah. So I'm all for it. Like, if you feel like you need to punt on Modest and Giddey in order to bring in the stock, like, let's do it. There shouldn't be any untradeable guys on the Bulls. There shouldn't be. There's a couple of they have a couple of attractive pieces. That's what they have. A couple of attractive pieces. And they have a new, what I like so far about the last couple of days, and maybe even going back, 6 weeks with Michael, is transparency. And it's a word that has not, this organization has not been transparent. AK, Mark Eversley never spoke. And when AK spoke, it had to be like under his terms, in some back room where no one could report anything. So I'm hoping that from ownership down, that not only are they telling you the plan, preaching the plan, showing you the plan, but then also going backwards and saying, here's where we are, and this is what we plan to do going forward. Because I do think it helps not only you as somebody who covers the team, but the messaging to the fans. Like, that helps an owner not have to go back to the podium and say, I'm sorry. That's the key. If he's truly sorry, the transparency begins now and never stops, and then it could work. And then fans will be filling the seats for the right reasons, not to come take pictures of the Jordan statue. That'll be one of the bonuses of coming to a Bulls game rather than the only reason to go to the Bulls game.
Right. And look, I know there was a lot of he's only 39. And he spent a lot of time in New Orleans and that organization.
Brad Stevens was fucking 33 when he's like,
exactly.
John McVay was 32 years old. He's too young to be the stop. Like, he's the right
I don't care. Yeah, exactly. I don't care about age. I don't care the organization he came from. I care about what his vision is. And the one thing he did bring up is, you need star players, and look at the record here. There are not star players.
Amen.
And every time I said that to Arturas, he looked at me like I'm from Mars. I'd be like, you don't have star players. Where are you going to get the star players? Well, you don't need them. If you look at the league and you can be like Indiana, then just play with depth. Really? Because Indiana's got this guy, Halliburton. He's pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
He doesn't strike me as just depth. He strikes me as an all-star potential MVP type player. So, I just don't think Arturas understood team building from day one. I think he tried something, and I don't want to spit on his grave, but it was just frustrating that is that Cap?
Cap says he'll spit on the grave.
Yeah, he will. It was just frustrating that you're just some dopey reporter and you see the vision of getting to a title team better than the guy that is being paid to do that.
Dude, that's how organizations use the media to their benefit. They use the media to their benefit, and not as puppets. But it's part of like, we can work together without you knowing the actual inner workings of everything. And
100%.
like, look at what Dallas did. Like Cuban got out and then was like super pissed because of, look what I turned over. Why would you ever trade Luka? And then he's getting back involved with like the media to be like, hey, this is all effed up. I should have never allowed this to happen.
Yeah.
Like really good organizations, not just in sports, but like Fortune 500s down, do it this way. They use the people to be successful. And the problem is ego gets in the way of everything all the time. And sometimes money, but mostly ego. And when you think you're the smartest man in the room, AK, and you're afraid of a challenging thought, then problems happen. I said this one time when I was going for a promotion, Joe, and I think it applies. I asked the person directly in the interview, and I knew I was an underdog, but I knew I was the right hire. I said, when you do those staff meetings, and you guys vote for something, is it always 12-0? And he said, pretty much all the time. And I said, you know what? I never want to be in one of those meetings. I never want to be in a meeting where it's 12-0. I want it to be 8-4, and I got what I wanted, but the 4 people made me think. And maybe that's who Bryson Graham is. Maybe Bryson Graham's that man in the room where 12 people have an idea, and 8 of them are the majority, but he's like, damn, those 2 ideas right there are really effing good. Theo Epstein was that way. Theo Epstein was like, who's that person who's that guy? Oh, he's an intern. We need to bring him to the next meeting. That's how shit works. That's how you can be successful. And we don't know what the end game is for Bryson Graham or how it's going to look, but I like a lot about how this feels. I do.
Yes, that's the thing. He could say all the words and stuff, but it felt like, okay, there's finally some clouds have lifted over this organization. And again, there's tons of work to do. And he even said, to your point, one of the things he said is, in any of the meetings, in any of the departments that we build out or build up, if I'm the smartest one in that meeting, then we're in trouble. So
love it.
He just kind of he gets it. He strummed all the right notes, and we'll see. But obviously it's going to be a very busy summer. There's going to be a tons of hires as far as the front office, and I think simultaneously he's going to be working on the coaching staff. I don't think he's in a rush for the coaching staff. First and foremost, I think he wants to build out this front office. He has the full checkbook to do it. Here's what people think. I love Nick Friedel, okay? But Nick hasn't covered the Bulls in over a decade, and Nick is completely wrong with his assessment of that the Bulls haven't spent the right way. Gar Forman and John Paxson wanted the smallest department and loved having a small department. That's how they operated. They wanted, there was very few player development. It was a 2-man show, and it worked for a long time. Pax made a lot of great picks. Gar, as much as I can't stand Gar and think he's an insect, he hit on some guys until it didn't. Until the league was so far in front of them that they couldn't play catch-up. Arturas came in and saw just how depleted, especially coming from Denver, how depleted the front office was in every aspect. He built it up and probably tripled the size and then built new departments. And he built it up, and there was not resistance in one spot. But it still was not close to where the NBA was headed. And plus, Arturas was not a collaborative person either. He built it up, but don't go against what I say. So they've always been playing catch up. This idea that they're cheap is just not true. And that's why I like that Michael basically told Bryson he's going to build this up financially however he wants to. And it's going to be paid for. So I think it's easy to jump on the old cheap Reinsdorf, and because of the stuff, and a lot of it's White Sox carryover stuff. Yep. And trust me, I was in that White Sox game for a long time. And I will say this: when they had a playoff team, Jerry went after it. When they had a playoff team come trade deadline, Jerry would go after it. After they won the World Series, people forget they just didn't sit back. They went out and got Jim Thome. It didn't work out, but when you go and get a Hall of Famer to replace Aaron Rowan, and people can debate that still, that Rowan was the kind of that blue collar, intricate piece chemistry wise in the clubhouse. But when you go out and you just look at the numbers and you go and get a Jim Thome after winning a World Series, that tells me, you're not afraid of the moment. So And Michael, I think, is even on a higher plane with that. So, look, nothing has changed today. They still finish where they did in the standings. The personnel is still the same, but for some reason, it feels different. It feels good. It feels better. It feels more optimistic. And then Sunday, God, Sunday could be so huge. Could be. It might have to be an emergency podcast.
I literally was about that. I'm okay with taking a pause. Hey, Mom, hang on for a second. I know it's your day. The Bulls have the number 1 pick.
Just need 10, 15 minutes. I'll run through a mock, and we'll celebrate it, or just go, all right, he's got 9, or slip back to 10. So now we're going to find out what kind of a talent evaluator he really is, because he'll have that 9, 10, or 15. So
let's you've been speaking it into existence for quite some time now. I'm actually just prepared for it at this point. So I'm ready to kickstart this thing. Like, let's let Bryson Graham get the big eyes. Like, holy hell, this changed everything. That would be fantastic. Yeah.
That would be. I mean, then you go to summer. You go to Summer League, Vegas, and you're actually watching guys that are, instead of some skinny French kid who's 16 and doesn't belong out there, and
Think about it.
By the way, I don't know how this happened, but this is like a month ago. Julia Poe was talking to Noah Asenge at the end of the season, and we were all standing there by him, and she said to him, Billy Donovan said you grew a little bit. Okay. Now all of a sudden on the internet, this has become Joe Cowley said Noah Asenge is 7 feet tall. In the podcast I did, I'm like, well, Noah says he grew a little bit, and if the Bulls are claiming that he's 6'10" or 6'9", that would make him a 7-footer. How this is becoming like some fact that Joe Cowley has now made Noah Asenge Wemby. Everyone cool their jets.
Well, people don't want to they don't want to go to the 17-minute mark of the podcast. They just want to, hey, you know what? Cowley says.
Cowley says. Cowley got everything wrong. Forget that hires are fluid. Cowley said
that one too. This guy, here are the 4 facts that he pulled from Twitter. Like, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a beautiful place.
I suck at my job. So.
Oh, I love X in the worst way.
Yes.
So filthy.
So.
So filthy.
All right, my guy. This was fun. I'm glad you could jump in with me.
Absolutely.
Optimistic days ahead.
I hope. Let's start with Sunday. Let's start with Sunday. We'll start with today. Now we move on to Sunday and we go from there. You're the best, dude.
And until Sunday, I got next.